In my wanderings through a strange land, I beheld a temple constructed like a tower, rising to a tremendous height and encircled at its foundation by a circular colonnade. Compelled by a desire for understanding, I knocked upon the temple's gate and pleaded for entry. A venerable old man, the sage of that temple, opened the gate and inquired of me, "What is it that you seek?" I answered simply, "Knowledge." He then asked, "Do you possess the strength and determination to ascend to the highest chamber of the tower?" I declared, "I have the desire, if you will act as my guide and show me the way." He then stretched out his hand to raise me up, stating, "If your heart is courageous, cross the threshold of this temple of human knowledge." I seized his offered hand, and together with the sage, I passed beneath the mighty gateway into the temple. Once I had entered the building's precincts, I observed that a stately colonnade ran in a circle around a triangular tower, which appeared to ascend to a dizzying height above me. As I looked on, I perceived that the wall behind the colonnade was covered with representations of human figures. My guide spoke, saying, "Behold the cycle of human life. See mankind as he appears to the human eye." I looked again and saw that the first picture by the entrance gate depicted the childhood of humanity. The angel of life was drawing back the veil beyond which lay the world with all its dangers and possibilities, and the children, full of joy, were marching forward to enter the promised land. Yet I noticed a look of pity upon the face of the angel, for in the darkness near the veil crouched the figure of Satan, marking in the sand with his claws the number of those he would devour. As I gazed longer at the children, I began to perceive that each child represented a distinct type of humanity. I saw the young king approaching the veil with a firm step, yet with awe upon his face as he contemplated that unknown world he would be called upon to govern. By his side was a youth with a vicious face and envy in his heart, seeking to push the young king aside so that he might be the first to take possession of the world. I saw many children bubbling over with the exuberance of youth, pleased with their immediate surroundings and not looking far ahead into the mysterious world being disclosed to them. I noticed one maiden gazing earnestly at the star of love, which shone down from above upon the world of youth, while another maiden, who possessed the soul of a wanton, was bending down to pluck a rose. In her haste to seize it, a thorn had pricked her finger. I followed my guide around the colonnade, and with each step, I witnessed the same children grown older, having advanced a little further on the journey of life, and I saw many fall by the wayside. When I arrived at the final picture, I saw that very few remained. The ascetic dervish, worn and emaciated, a man who had sought for God through the Spirit, and the aged king, full of gravity, a man who had sought for God by striving to act according to his conscience in the world. A profound loneliness surrounded these two, but they paid it no heed. Behind the throne of the king stood the angel of life, now transformed into the angel of death, her arms crossed and an impenetrable look upon her face. Saddened by all I had witnessed, I withdrew from the colonnade and sat for a long while in the sunshine of the pleasant garden at the base of the tower, meditating on the vanity of human existence. Then my guide touched me upon the shoulder and said, "Your eye has seen but the outer shell of humanity, and you are therefore depressed. Do you now seek to know what has been revealed to the soul of man and to understand the limits of human knowledge?" I replied, "I am willing, for my heart thirsts for knowledge." My guide then used his wand to touch a small, hidden door in the rugged walls of the triangular tower, which opened and admitted us inside. When I withdrew, my guide led me to the second chamber. There I saw a stately, deeply veiled woman wearing a crown adorned with a crescent moon. Upon her lap lay a great closed book. With deep respect, I prostrated myself before her and said, "Teach me, noble woman, that I may learn." She replied, "I am the recipient, the passive principle. I am the complement to that which you witnessed in the first chamber. I am the link between the unity and man, the holy sanctuary. I hold the book of knowledge, which can only be read by one who has the power to lift my veil." As I contemplated her more steadfastly, I saw that her veil grew progressively dimmer until, for a single instant, I beheld the beauty of her face. Then she vanished from my sight. My guide seized my hand and bade me follow him to the next chamber. When I had penetrated the veil closing this new entrance, I again saw a throne upon which a woman was seated, clothed in majesty and wearing a crown of authority. An eagle stood by her side, and above her was a canopy that seemed to be formed from the wings of angels. After I had made obeisance to her, she opened her lips and said, "I am the termination of the first and the second. In me, the equilibrium is completed. I am the law of the world, and with my scepter do I govern it. With one hand, I draw down the spirit, and with the other, I raise up its negation. Within my womb is man conceived." After I had exited the last chamber with my guide, he instructed me to meditate for a while on all that I had seen. He then led me up a steep flight of steps to the second level of the tower. Once we had reached it, he said to me, "We have now attained another plane of thought, another aspect of things." My guide then instructed me, "Enter now the fourth chamber, which lies above the first chamber below." I did as I was commanded, and upon entering the chamber, I beheld a king upon his throne. I prostrated myself before the majesty of his countenance. Presently, I heard him say, "I am not the absolute absolute. For humanity, I am the realization of the absolute. I am the will of the unity, and my scepter is the sign of power. With it, I rule mankind, for my law shall be his law. To me, humanity must turn for all that pertains to the world in which he lives." I then withdrew from the presence of the king and followed my guide into the fifth chamber. There, I likewise beheld a man seated upon a throne, but he wore not the crown of a worldly king. Instead, his brow was adorned with a mystic sign, and he was arrayed in the white robes of sanctity. He spoke these words to me, "Kneel and worship, for I am not a king of this world. My scepter is the sign of spiritual authority. With it, I rule the souls of men. I am the voice of the law of the spirit. I am the bond of reunion between created man and the divine breath from which his creation proceeded." When he ceased speaking, I withdrew with awe in my heart, following my guide to the sixth chamber, which lay in the third angle of the tower's second level. When I entered, I found myself in complete darkness. Gradually, a dim light seemed to descend from the summit of the chamber, growing in intensity until I beheld with astonishment what appeared to be the eye of a spiritual being looking down upon me. My guide said unto me, "Behold the eye of the world. Through it, the mind realizes the beauty of the unity's manifestation. Through it, love reaches the soul, bringing man and woman to the completion of their destinies. Learn and understand the mystery of this sign, for this is the point from which two roads diverge. Along the one descends the spirit of light, along the other descends the spirit of darkness." The vision faded from my sight, and while meditating deeply on this revelation, I followed my guide as he led me out of the chamber to begin our ascent to the third level of the tower. Upon reaching it, we entered the seventh chamber together, which lay above the fourth chamber and the first chamber below. For a time, I saw nothing within. Then I heard the whiz of an arrow and beheld in the misty distance a noble stag struck down by it. Looking round, a majestic vision of a man appeared to me, radiant like a conqueror, holding in his extended hand the bow of power from which the arrow had been discharged. He asked me, "What do you see?" I replied, "I see the weak overcome by the strong." He said to me, "Behold, I am the conqueror, man as the emblem of the Creator. I am more than nature. I am nature illuminated by the spirit of the eternal, and therefore I overcome mere nature." After this vision disappeared, I passed with my guide to the eighth chamber. Therein, I saw a sword standing unsupported on the point of its hilt. In astonishment, I exclaimed, "What does this sign mean?" My guide replied, "A permanent struggle exists between man and nature. Man attains through labor, but he loses again if his labor should cease. This is the sign of equilibrium, the balance between opposing forces, between good and evil in the created world. This is the sign of the spirit of justice, which uses the power of the sword to separate the opposing combatants." After I had gazed upon this symbol for some time, I proceeded to the last chamber on this level, the ninth chamber. When the veil at the entrance fell behind me, I found myself face to face with an aged dervish whose countenance was serene and radiant. Age seemed to have no power to afflict him, and wisdom shone forth from his eyes. In his right hand, he held aloft a burning lamp, and in his left, he held the staff on which he leaned. I saluted him with reverence, and he addressed me thus, "When I was young, I selected the path of light, and my reward has been great. I have imprisoned wisdom in this lamp, which illuminates my path. Around my soul, I have drawn a mantle of protection to ward off evil when it assails me. This staff of strength I found upon my path, and on it, I can lean with security in my ascent towards truth. The serenity of this old man filled my soul with elation, and a glow of divine love seemed to penetrate me like a precious gift from his presence. Upon leaving the chamber, I followed my guide up to the next level of the tower, where we entered the 10th chamber, which lay above the 7th, the 4th, and the 1st chamber below. There, I beheld a circle turning upon no visible axis. My guide said to me, "Behold the symbol of eternity, the symbol of the incessant action of time. The circle is ever moving. It ascendeth and descendeth. So ascendeth the Spirit of God to the summit, and so descendeth the spirit of evil to the abyss. Yet the circle remains unbroken. Thus, the descent from good to evil is possible, just as the ascent from evil to good is possible. This is a chamber of equilibrium. Below, in the 7th chamber, you saw the conqueror, the holder of power, the symbol of creative force. In the chamber above, you shall see the symbol of destruction. Here, you see the ascent and the descent, yet the circle is one and unbroken. But a vaster circle exists which the eye of man cannot see. It turns and turns through eternity without ceasing. The spirit of creation creates, and the spirit of destruction destroys. The circle is the equilibrium without which there could be no manifestation of the unity. Without such a manifestation, the unity would be dead and unconscious of itself. When my guide ceased speaking, he led me to the 11th chamber. There, I saw a virgin standing before me, radiant in all the splendor of youth and strength. With a voice that had the ring of silver, without tremor and without fear, she spoke to me thus. In me lies hid the germ of vitality. To you, my hand may seem weak, but my strength lies in the spirit. Because my heart is pure, I know no fear. With my foot, I curb the dragon beneath me. It was so sweet a vision that it made my heart leap with joy. When it vanished from my sight, I followed my guide pensively to the 12th chamber, my mind still full of the beautiful young virgin. In this chamber, I found myself in complete obscurity. But as I gazed into the darkness, a sign gradually appeared to me in the form of a cross. My guide said, "Behold the sign of the revealed law. It proceedeth out of the darkness, and man must bow to it." As I gazed more intently, the face of a man seemed to appear, enclosed by a triangle hanging downwards at the base of the cross. I marveled and exclaimed, "What does this transformation mean?" My guide replied, "Woe unto the man who, filled with pride, presumes to rebel against the revealed law, for destruction awaits him. It is vain for man to seek to rebel against that which the Eternal hath revealed. Through submission, he will rise. Through rebellion, his face will be turned from the light and his advancement delayed." When my guide ceased speaking, we left the chamber and proceeded to ascend to the 5th level of the tower. There, we entered the 13th chamber together, and this new vision appeared to me. A luxuriant meadow spread out before my eyes like the plain of the world itself. It was filled with wonderful variety, and the abundant flowers nodded to each other in their sheer joy of existence. Presently, however, the breath of winter approached, and its icy blast chilled my soul. As I gazed, I saw the vision of death looming up before me. In one hand he held a scimitar, and in the other an empty basket. He mowed down the flowers and threw them into the basket, and it seemed to me that they turned into the heads of dead men. Some wore crowns, and others the humble hood of the dervish. Some had the golden hair of youth, and others the whitened locks of old age. In my fear, I cried aloud, "O terror of the world, what are you?" A voice replied, "I am the link between the known and the unknown. That which seems gold in the world, I will turn into base metal, and that which seems base metal, I will turn into gold. As the ocean dissolves and absorbs the salt of the world, so do I. For I am the solvent of humanity, and out of that which is, I make that which shall be." When the voice ceased, the vision of death departed, and I saw again the green meadow filled with flowers. My guide then said to me, "The spirit of life is the antagonist of the spirit of stagnation, for stagnation is the negation of life itself. In the unity, nothing is created and nothing is destroyed. To the sage, Therefore, death holds no terrors, for he knows that without death there could be no life. Without darkness, there is no light. Without the negation, there can be no manifestation of reality. Death is the key which opens for man a further stage on the path of the unity's manifestation. From this chamber, my guide led me to the 14th. There I saw an angel who poured the water of life from a pitcher into a receiver beneath. My guide explained, "The meaning is this. In the world where you live, the mind perceives the existence of individuality, which is caused by the water of life descending in varying degrees into matter, its opposite. This angel, fertilizing the world by pouring upon it the water of life, gives unto man the conception of justice. This justice is to be the light which guides him upon his path through the material world. The angel you see is therefore the emblem of temperance, the principle which should govern every individual creature in the world." Then with my guide, I proceeded to the last chamber on this level, the 15th in number. Here I found myself in complete darkness, but presently, out of the profound gloom, glowed forth the beast of evil, a dragon biting its own tail. Seized with fear, I clung to my guide, who threw around me the mantle of protection and said, "Behold the sign. This is the circle of evil. Woe unto the man who steppeth into the shadow of the light, for the gloom shall grow greater and greater. Against the fatal power of the dragon's ring, man's will struggles in vain. Whoever falls into this magic circle will find that no regrets can avail them, for an eternity seems to separate them from the path of reunion." Overcome with dread, I left the chamber and began the ascent to the next level of the tower. Upon reaching it, I entered the 16th chamber with my guide. Inside, I saw a tower of great strength, and the master of the tower with his attendants were enjoying their security behind its mighty battlements. I said to myself that the architect's skill seemed so cunning that this tower would not perish until the destruction of the world itself. But presently, I heard a great roar and beheld a thunderbolt descending from a cloud. It struck the mighty tower, the battlements were parted asunder, and the master and his attendants were hurled to the ground. In amazement, I exclaimed, "What does this sign mean?" My guide replied, "Behold the sign of the fall. Spiritual man has entered the world and put on the burden of the material body. Behold the symbol of the spirit of the unity, which to your eyes is invisible, incarnated into the world which lies open to your senses." When the vision passed, I followed my guide to the 17th chamber. As I entered, I felt the breath of spring upon me, and my heart, which had been saddened, leapt for joy. I saw before me the vision of a lovely maiden whose golden tresses were crowned with a diadem of 7 stars. She sat in a green meadow enameled with glorious flowers, and by her side was a fountain from which poured forth the purest water of the earth. The lovely maiden opened her lips and spoke, and my soul was so stirred that tears of joy flowed from my eyes at the softness of her voice, which was like the music of a harp in the stillness of the night. She said, "I am the voice of hope in the world. I am the eternal youth of nature. In the depth of the immaterial world lies hidden the water that wells up in the fountain of immortality. I have absorbed the glory of the sun into my golden tresses. With my diadem of stars, I draw down the spirit into the body of man. Into his fallen soul, I breathe the hope of redemption. Through me comes to man the courage to struggle against the bondage in which he is placed." I tarried long in contemplation of this beautiful vision until my guide, with his wand of power, caused it to vanish. Then I followed him to the last chamber on this level, the 18th in number. Again I found myself in utter darkness, but after a few moments I heard my guide say, "Watch, and you shall see." I gazed into the gloom, and a vision grew before me that filled my soul with despondency. It seemed I saw the world spread out before me, illuminated only by the pale and sickly light of the moon. Man was struggling against man, wild beast against wild beast, and the reptiles of the earth came out of their hiding places to gather their spoil. In my sorrow, I exclaimed, "What does this sign mean?" My guide replied, "This is the last term. This is the ultimate descent of the spirit of the unity into the depths of the abyss of negation. This is the realm of chaos, the kingdom of the passions let loose in the world. This is the triumph of matter, matter absorbing the spirit and on the verge of throttling it. The sight inspired me with such great terror that my eyes had no tears left to weep. I felt as if a mountain of matter were piled upon my soul to crush it, until beneath the strain my mind gave way, and I fell back in a swoon into the arms of my guide. When I recovered my senses, the vision had departed, and I was led from that chamber of despair like a child. But when I sought to ascend to the next level, my guide checked me and said, "Before we proceed any further, pause and reflect. Thus far you have ascended through 6 levels of the tower and visited 18 chambers. This is the meaning of what you have seen. In the first 6 chambers, you gained knowledge of the principles of the universe. In the next 6 chambers, you moved in the world of law and gained knowledge of the spirit of preservation. In the last 6 chambers, you gained knowledge of the world of facts. The totality of what you have witnessed has this meaning. It is the breath of the unity descending towards the abyss of darkness. What you will witness now," he continued, "is the yearning for reunion, the raising of the eternal spirit back to the unity from which it first proceeded." Having spoken thus, my guide led the way up a long flight of steps. They were narrow and steep at the beginning but broadened out and became easier as we advanced. When we reached the top, we found ourselves on a higher level of the tower and entered the 19th chamber. At first, I saw nothing but a shapeless mist surrounding me, permeated by a strange, vivifying luminosity. Presently, within the uniformity of this mist, I saw what appeared to be a germ forming, a single point of condensation. It gradually assumed a more definite shape, appearing to me like a pure crystal of salt suspended in an endless ocean. Then the crystal vanished slowly, and through the spot where it had been, I saw the forms of hills beginning to rise. The landscape became more distinct. I saw the shapes of trees appearing and flowers of every hue, with butterflies and insects buzzing among them. Fishes were leaping in newly formed rivers. As I marveled at this creation, the glory of a greater light broke through the mist, and I saw beneath me a lovely garden where the children of men, youths and maidens, played among the flowers, rejoicing in the sublime gift of life. I then heard my guide exclaim, "Behold, the spirit of the eternal has reached the manifestation of humanity through the chaos of the material world." As the mist began to close around me once more, I followed my guide to the 20th chamber. Here I saw spread out before me the field of solitude, the burial place of all humanity. No living thing stirred therein, and no sound could be heard. As I gazed upon this waste, I heard the sound of a great trumpet, the voice of Israel calling to humanity. I saw Azrael, the angel of death, sitting in meditation at the center of the field, and at the sound of the trumpet, he rose and flapped his sable pinions like a tired bird about to retire to its rest. He then drew his great wings around his form, for the sleep of eternity was upon him. In the field of solitude, I saw the graves open and the dead rising from them. The rending of their grave clothes was like the roar of a sea seeking to break down the barriers of the land. My guide, seizing my trembling hand, said to me, "Fear not. It is the voice of the eternal calling to humanity. Behold the breath of the unity rising to the spiritual world, casting aside the shackles of the material world." When this vision faded, I followed my guide to the last chamber on this elevated level, the 21st in number. There appeared to me a young man riding a fine horse. With eyes burning with desire, he gazed steadfastly at a young girl who danced before him, glorious in her nakedness, her hair adorned with garlands of roses. By his side, an old hag hobbled along, holding his stirrup with one hand and an hourglass in the other, in which I saw the sand was fast running out. As I looked, I saw a deep precipice appear ahead, and at that moment, a hideous dog rushed forth and bit the legs of the horse to urge it onward in its reckless career. As the rider drew closer to the precipice, the young girl who danced before him changed in my sight. The color in her cheeks turned to the waxen hue of death. The petals of her roses shriveled and fell to the ground, and her hair spread out across the sky like the gray threads of a spider's web. The young man, having no power to check his steed's fury, passed over the edge and was lost in the abyss. While my heart was heavy with pity for him, I heard my guide say, "Watch and behold again." Another young man appeared, clad in armor and holding a goodly spear. Wild and dangerous beasts strode across his path, but he looked neither right nor left. With the power of his spear, he drove them all away. I saw him begin the ascent of a steep mountain full of obstacles, but they seemed to recede before him. As he reached the summit, the sun shone forth, illuminating his armor, and in the glory of that light, the vision faded from my sight. My guide then said to me, "In the first chamber on this level, you saw the divine spirit rising through matter to the human world. In the next, you were shown its rise from the human world to the spiritual world. The meaning of what you have seen in this chamber is that in the world where you live, an equilibrium exists between matter and the divine spirit. Within the heart of each man, a point is hidden upon which this equilibrium is poised. This point is the mystery of his individuality, which holds the power to turn the balance to the right hand or to the left, towards matter, which leads to the abyss, or towards the divine spirit, which accelerates the moment of reunion with the unity. Woe unto him, therefore, who in the human world lets the idleness of one single hour impair his individuality's power to turn the balance towards the light." My guide then led me from the chamber and said, "I have shown you all, yet one chamber remains." I asked him, "Are my eyes worthy to see what is therein?" He replied, "If you desire to see, you must rise to it alone." He then pointed the way to a steep and tortuous flight of steps leading to the highest pinnacle of the tower. These I began to ascend alone, with great toil and pain. When I had reached a great height, I saw before me the entrance to a final chamber, closed by a heavy veil. I pushed it aside and penetrated within. When the veil fell back behind me, it seemed as if a gravestone had fallen upon a grave, severing me forever from the world of humanity. A profound feeling of solitude crept upon me, and a powerful desire to pray. Kneeling down, I worshipped the unknown, seeking illumination. By degrees, my understanding of all I had seen grew and expanded within me. When I lifted my eyes, I saw that the chamber was formed like an ellipse, and at its center a figure sat upon a throne. It was neither man nor woman, but humanity itself in the womb of time, the ellipse of the Absolute. As I gazed in marvel, I saw a mystic flower at the summit of the chamber open its 4 great petals, each bearing a sign burnt in fire. From the depths of the flower, 3 rays of light descended upon the figure beneath, illuminating it with such splendor that I could see the overpowering serenity of its face, ever youthful, upon which no wrinkle was written. Then the figure crossed its hands so that its 4 fingers were extended against each other, and with their tips, it touched its lips, placing upon them the eternal seal of silence. My soul grew utterly bewildered by the beauty of that face. I covered my eyes with my hands, and when I opened them again, I felt the breath of dawn upon my face. I heard a lark singing high above, and a profound joy and calm was in my heart. The morning star shone in all its glory above the vast solitude of the desert. As we leave the Tower of Silence, remember that its chambers are not built of stone, but of the human spirit itself. Every step upward is a reminder that the path of transformation lies within. If this journey spoke to you, share it with others so that more seekers may find their way to the hidden chambers. Support the channel by liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications. And let your voice be heard in the comments with the truth you've uncovered. The journey does not end here. It begins again with each soul that dares to climb. Thank you for watching.